Hello, it's Dixie doing a video. Flat Earth model is in physics, flat disk spinning through space, not in a three-dimensional sense. What we've got is different dimensions of reality in different structures and dimensions. Mainly we're looking at will be a holographic universe. There's other things as well we need to be aware of, that if it's holographic, it doesn't necessarily obey all these 5 laws of the central perception. Light goes beyond that. They were saying there's a non-time sound, so we can cover something like we talk about flat planes and everything flat and so on. Sometimes could be to do your abilities to translate something into a model that's feasible. If I'm going to hunt something, I would want to bend the brain in my mind. I want to be able to see the target. It's target. I think probably not the same. I mean, there's other things we don't know about it. It's possible that the Antarctica is humongous. So that's why the story about sailors who sail around it and navigate. It could be that it's twice the size it is. You know, different planes of reality. So it's a complicated issue, but I don't think I'd run with into fairy tale mode. I mean, the stars. But basically, I mean, an example of we talk about. I've just mentioned that flat plane. Your mind corrects that reality. If you see something in a distance, it still has the same light source signals reflecting in their data, but my mind is able to perceive it as in a place and a location. Same if I couldn't hear something, someone shouting, I can still tell if they were shouting from a distance or they were shouting nearby. There'll be telltale signs, and my brain can translate it. So a bit like I'm looking at some birds far off in the distance at the moment. You know, why is there a distance? Why am I perceiving a distance? It's a part of this. In order to create a feasible reality, certain conditions need to be preset. And so that's why you've got things like time, and you've got distance and other things. But I think once you fully appreciate what they are, then at a later date there might be a way to sort of manipulate that using your conscious mind, rather than any sort of using your light body. So there's other issues there. I mean, so there's different dimensions. These dimensions are basically like the matrix, different matrix levels, and that would be the starting point when the universe was constructed. And there's things that exist in that dimension. You know, not everything runs around with a light body, but things that do have a light body, then obviously they relate to reality slightly different. There's also different layers in these dimensions. There's perceived different worlds or inner worlds. I quite strongly like the inner Earth model. Basically, space doesn't. I mean, a dense object doesn't necessarily have anything filled in the middle of it. It just has exterior. It has a construct on the outside. But in different dimensions, it can have different layers and different frequencies. It's a bit like, you know, the idea that something can pass through a wall if it's in the right type of density and frequency. So there's so much to learn. I mean, there's stuff in science that doesn't fit, but there's also this area where, you know, if it's a hologram, I'm perceiving this reality, I wouldn't accept it under certain rules. So like I mentioned, if I see some bird at a distance, if suddenly that changed and everything I looked at, I could see it was overlapped and it was straight there in my face, I'd probably have a massive headache. I mean, it's no different than a computer game. When you play a computer game, you're looking on a flat screen, but your mind is able to perceive this reality, and it becomes a part of you in that sense that you perceive depth, distance, and abilities within this game, and then your mind becomes a bit hardwired to it for a bit. So I'm not going against flat earthers. I'm just saying that it might be running the wrong direction. If you wanted to look at, say, stars, and it's a cognitive notion that they're probably just 1,000 miles away, and they're just a bit artful, to be honest. That would be perceived wrong. I mean, it comes down to this basic law: is that the light comes across, the universe is full of light. Light runs at different frequencies, but my only translation and perception is like 5% of that reality, and so therefore I am seeing almost like a particle stream of that, and then the light in itself, more into an X-ray. It's off the scale for my ability to understand it, but it's just because the distance is still there. It still bears that physics. I mean, so it is still far away. You could probably size it up to where it would be. I mean, distance, at level 1 level, it's an illusion. But if in this reality, in this type of like spectrum frequency, it would take me it's light years away. I would like to think I could just like jump in a craft and fly there, but so there's a lot more that's not understood about our world. And so anyway, that's a short little video. Hope it's given some meaning. I want people to think that I've adopted of one particular theory. I think the holographic stuff and the quantum physics and the metaphysics and then kind of sides of things make a lot more sense. Like light and light density, frequency, and if you change that, you can change reality. And things like that are quite more intriguing to modern beliefs, and also parallels into religion. But it is kind of like, don't jump too deep in, just analyse what's being said, but don't dismiss it either. So it's kind of getting a balance right. Okay, well, this is Pigsy sign off, and that's the video. Bye. I'm going to just continue my talk. I just have to teleport into my flat. Yeah, basically I was just going to touch upon our senses, and let's get lights always light in your face. Yeah, just touching upon your senses. I mean, if we wanted to sort of debunk models slightly, then if we say take our sensory perception of hearing, that we use a filtration system with sound, so that we can basically extract one person's voice in the crowd and that kind of thing, and understand what they're saying. But actually, what you're in is a white noise. It's no different with light. There's light all around me, but I can only see things that have basically come from other sources, like they're being reflected off a wall, and it's given me a blueprint of information that my consciousness and my mind has actually translated. So if we look at things like things in the distance, I mentioned there's usually a point where it ends, and they use the flat lines to kind of target that. But to be honest, what you're seeing in there doesn't necessarily even exist. It's a representation of what's out there. It's no different, like I touched upon, when people play computer games, and basically sometimes you get in the background as you get closer. Actually, the background's almost generated. It could be that that's to maintain this holographic simulation, because otherwise, if I saw something I couldn't have more understand what the actual reality, basically some people have a complete mental breakdown, which they haven't done. They've come across things that haven't equated their reality, and it's basically causing them just to have a complete mental breakdown. Look, I think somebody who was a pure skeptic met some type of alien being or had some encounter, and that reality was so far-fetched for that person that he just decided he must be completely mad, because that's the logical conclusion, is that it doesn't fit into my world, so therefore I must be, you know, basically his whole mind just fallen apart because he's built up a structure that doesn't fit, that all fits a type of paradigm and view of reality, and then once that's broken down, it's just led them to the point of madness. So with my eyes, they're perceiving things at different ranges. The information's coming across but there's also something else. There's a field of energy between that, because some changes must go between the source to myself. I mean, I guess my eyes take in 2 different points of information, but even with one eye, I still perceive the same distance. So there's something that goes on, that like layers, that my brain can perceive the distance as being, you know, this part of the hologram or this layer. So it falls into a field of vision. I can almost see it now. It's almost like the thickness of the onion, basically. So things that are close, that got more detail, have more compact information, but they don't have other types of information. And then the next level is that you'll perceive things at a certain size, distance. So you've got a medium range, then you've got your long range, and then you've got like, you know, super distance. I've touched upon the stars. I think basically with a holographic image, you've got the light, that's the shape of it. But the information of what it is, I mean, basically travelling the distance through space, your mind has to basically, some people might actually see stars at different distances because of their perception. So, you know, 2 scientists could have an argument basically in how they perceive things, but actually miss the point. So, you know, they might be so caught up in it, they might say, well, I've measured it at this size in my sight. Or if they drew something they saw, and the one said, no, that was this, and then there'd be this kind of debate would go on. And then they miss the fact that a perceived source of information sent through frequency and light, they come across, and it was transferred, this information, to them, and then their mind and their consciousness reconstructed that. And I think maybe the interconnection is probably the consciousness, how wide that is. It's the like quantum entanglement. So, you know, if you see something, basically, you know something's there, and in reality, because consciousness is focused on this object, it also is connected with you. Now that might sound a bit weird, but if you've ever been walking around or standing somewhere and someone's been looking at you, and you know they're looking at you, but so there's, you know, you suddenly think, well, somebody's watching me or something, and then you've just looked over in that direction, you see they're staring at you for a few seconds, or, you know, enough time that they're obviously thinking about you. So that's quite a interesting thing. Other things that within this conscious, I mean, you've got possibly also, you've got like, if we want to talk about who can develop abilities outside of what your known reality is. So you understand there's senses, and then there's perceptions, and then expanding them perceptions. Like a lot of people have had things where they've had, they would say it's like a jinx, coincidence, but they've basically, they've picked up on something, you know, like if they've said something what someone's going to say before they've said it, and they're not too sure. They usually dismiss these things, or they see it as like, oh, wow, that was a fluke, that was a bit of luck. Or what if it wasn't? Once you're touching upon another ability there. So you've got what we could call a short range telepathy there. Or you're able to read the frequencies this person's giving off, and it's giving you this information. Or even that thought is its light itself, and you're able to read that frequency of information. So there's different sub-levels there. But the difference is that some people may have the, you could call it, they could call it empathy, or say you had some type of intuition. But you could have different levels. You could have, like, say, short range, medium, long range, and then you've got some astronomical type range. So you perceive something, the other side of the world, where you couldn't physically see it. You could perceive something the other side of the galaxy. And then it would depend on other different things. If you want to explore this type of reality, it depends on the frequency. If you've got something with the same type of frequency as you have, or there's synergy, then you'll more likely have positive results than if you've got something that's more disruptive, unless you're able to transfer disruption. So just continuing it, kind of talk. Also other things to debunk about the flat Earth model. I think it was debated that if a hot air balloon went up in the air, that the planet should move, and the balloon wouldn't have to go anywhere, and it would travel a great distance and so on. I don't know about the speed of the planet and how that relates, but energy doesn't have any of these kind of limitations. And photonically, it's also wired into the sun, and it relates to things. It's like the Earth has its own inner sun as well. So there's, like I say, different layers of that reality. The only way to do is look into it. It could be the reason why the elite are digging around underground, just finding different ways. They're exploring new places to take over, I'd imagine. Explaining the laws of gravity and so on. I've touched upon it before. It's basically falls into what's known as the law of attraction, and things of similar frequency are attracted to each other. Some things have a kind of compatibility there, or they have some synergetic connection, so they're drawn to each other, even though they might have some indifferences about things. So they might have, say you've got, say with oxygen, it's a mixture of gases, so it has a relationship with each other, them gases, even though they're different gases. It's not like I walk along and I can smell the difference, because it still does what it needs to do. Water finds its own certain level and sticks together. It has elasticity about it, and then it creates a membrane around itself. So that creates its dimensional boundary. And then it becomes, rather than one droplet of water, it becomes a pool or lake or so on. It has certain characteristics it takes on as it becomes uniformed. So this is based on frequency. Same law of physics applies to myself. That I wouldn't have so much water if it wasn't based on frequency. I'd have to have a more solid mass. My skin would have to be solid, because basically this fluid could expel through my body, and I could become dehydrated. There's no reason for it to stay in my body, basically. But the DNA and each of the cells creates in essence a type of, as well as your aura, it's like a force field as well, a force field of attraction. So things are attracted to each other, and then the next thing is what sets the different layers of density, because there's a spectrum of density. It's not like there's bits of rock floating around in the sky, and there could be gas underground. They're just trapped in different levels. But naturally, it would given the choice, it would escape to mix with its own group, basically. But within the centre of the planet is a different type of star there. There's basically something with a magnetosphere of attraction there, and then what you've got is the electric or your aluminum type connection. So the atmosphere is positively charged, while the inner Earth has a negative charge of energy to it, and the attraction. Now, the Earth is diamagnetic in its structure, but it also has this torus field that relates to it. So it's complicated, but then it's not. It doesn't operate in the same way. It's possibly due to the atmosphere is charged, like I say, with its positive electrons and ionosphere, where you have the negative relationship below, but it would have to have a convection type cycle of energy that would have to go round at some point, otherwise they would be, I mean, that's the reason why they're depolarized, and a diamagnetic field will align itself with a more dominant field. That's the effect. They would have a certain level of repulsion between each other, but then over a period of time it would actually develop a relationship with it. Basically, it's like the theory of magnetising something. It already has a magnetic properties, but you've brought an alignment there and a polarity between the energy fields. So that's what that's about. So yeah, that separates the of density and the law of attraction is why things are in certain areas. Like I say, you've got nature in nature. You know, there's an attraction between each other, or people to people. It'll be throughout this kind of laws, and it goes, like I say, it goes into a more quantum realm, up to whatever you perceive reality. So that's possibly touched a lot upon a lot of stuff there. But the air has its own density as well. So if a balloon goes up in the air, it's still going to be pushed along with everything else. And if it's electrically driven and it's using a pulse rather than physically being pushed, kinetic force, then that's why everything moves together. So, you know, there is no separation between the light and dark. So the yin and yang, you know, there's a constant relationship between these opposites. You know, this piece, and hope you enjoy the video.